Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blah. Alan Robson with you again. Thanks for joining. We have a whole host of stuff as usual. The program that used to start off as merely being a debrief from last week's Ghost Hunt has become this other thing now, but it seems like you guys are liking it, and we're happy to keep on keeping on. Now, we called the last show based in that ancient building on Bridge Street in Morpeth, the Time Tunnel, because throughout history there's amazing stories and amazing people that have lived there, and it's got a whole new future waiting for it. We were so glad to be invited to go and take a look at it, and we got some of the goods. We really did. I'll show you what one of you captured, which is just beautifully the 5% we always look for. And I know I go on at length saying that we should discount 95% of everything that anybody ghost hunts and just look for the 5% that could be nothing else. We've got that 5% caught by one of you guys. It's always you guys. And at the time, did I see it? No, I saw a similar phenomenon. But this one, when I've watched it on the big TV, you see a figure or a something come down and then move back up again. Now, when I've watched it on a phone, it doesn't quite look so good. Still looks bloody impressive. So you'll see that very, very soon. Rod says, hope you're good, kidder. I am. Amazing show with a total ghost capture, says Tom. And says, in a room where you were there or thereabouts and you didn't see it. Now, I did see moving white, although nowhere near where we've caught it. I saw it in two corners, one behind it. If you go through that main door, one on the right-hand side and one very much on the left-hand side. And it was in the doorway where Lee Maria, rather, has captured it. And we're going to be playing her clip a little bit later. So thanks to Lee Maria. Lee Maria also pointed out a troll that we got. There's always going to be one. And they always just want it to be about them instead of about you. And it's all about you. It's always been about you. But they want it to be about them. Thanks for telling me. We got shot of them. A lot of great responses. And I got one, Eddie, saying, how do you feel when people have a pop? I got no qualms about it. Water off a duck's back, honestly. Every box has a bad egg. There you go. That's what my mother used to say back in the day. Brian caught a ghost on Gosforth Racecourse at the golf club part of it. And he says, is there any known ghost person, any story of who it's supposed to be? Not directly, Brian. People who work in and around the golf course know and have captured, and you sent a few images in. We're hoping to feature them next week, because quite often we get a bit of carryover here. There is a ghost golfer. There was even a feature on the BBC about him, yet no names attached to it. But they did a feature on Gosforth's ghost golfer. Local householders apparently in and around Gosforth also often see this figure walking around and then totally disappearing. Now, Alistair, we missed out last week, and last week was after the Halloween habnabs. And Alistair, now I can't talk while Alistair's bits on, but Alistair talks us through parts of it. For any of you that didn't go out on Halloween and kept your curtains closed and you didn't want to put any sweets out for the bands, you know who you are. There'll be one or two of you there. This is for you, because he went a-travelling to Eatle and also to Ford, and he's done a really good job of this. It's about 3 minutes of it. Enjoy.
Yeah. Hi, Alan. I'm busy in Eatle. Get my exercise in, walking around. The scarecrow trail. It's not haunted or anything, it's just thought it would be good for Halloween. Getting plenty of exercise anyway, and I feel great. It's out in the fresh air. I just have a walk up to the castle. Have a look at these ghosts here. It's good to be out, like. Can you see that? They must take them ages to make this, like these. Right, I'll let you go, and I'll speak to you later. Back again, right, I'm walking down an old mill next to the river. It's a bit crisp, but it's nice. There's a witch on this stake. Hi guys, now I'm in Ford Village, having a walk around. I'll walk a little bit. A bit chilly still, I think. Catch you later.
How good was that? I especially, you can always tell when a bloke, forget women, you can always tell when a bloke's concentrating. He's doing the big sweep, the big swirl around. His tongue's out. Now, I'm really focusing. Good stuff. Well done, Alistair. That was cracking. And he loved Chillingham as well, which is great. Harris has been on and says, you know, we do get some random questions here. Alan, have you got any photographs from Beaconsfield firework display 33 years ago? No. What? How random is that? Also, Tori says, looking well, Mr. R, thank you. Adam, how come, good question this, how come we never see any Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon ghosts? Well, how do you know? How do you know? Two parts to this. Somebody once asked the question saying, how come we don't see any dinosaur ghosts? Well, people have seen huge black shapes and huge black shadows. Are they the spirits of dinosaurs? Are they the spirits of elephants? Who the hell knows? The reason we don't see too many Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon here and there, and I'm sure we do. I'm sure there's energy about if they died before their time, and I would guess an awful lot of them, purely by the nature of the way they lived, would have died before their time. You have to remember that the population now, the modern day population is massive. Back then, we're talking originally 50, 70, 90, a few hundred. And were they here or were they somewhere else? Well, they were everywhere, but only in ones and twos. So to see one would be a massive rarity. The bottom line is, I believe that everything leaves its little mark, its essence of energy that cannot be destroyed. So say the scientists. David says this, a distant relative of mine was Billy the Whaler from the 1800s, a coxswain born in 1858, a successful whaler and harpooner, and a self-confessed sinner. And he sent a picture of somebody that looked a little bit like Bushy, but wearing seafaring garb. And they sent a poem over. The man's name was Billy Robinson, and this is the poem. I've done a few of these that people have sent in from around and about it. You seem to like them. This one's cracking. We're talking New Biggin by the Sea. In every seaside village up and down the coast is a well-known character who we remember most. In New Biggin village, when the sea was man's trade, a story unfolded and then simply replayed. A fisherman called Billy, a self-confessed sinner, strode out onto the rocks, becoming a winner. The first to find a whale who had sadly beached. Now for Billy, the heights of infamy was reached. Now, what actually, this happened. I know it's a poem, but everything in the poem happened. He found a beached whale and then told everybody that he caught it with a harpoon. Anyway, here we go. Infamy was reached. His photo was taken beside the huge creature. In hundreds of newspapers, he became the main feature. Billy the Whaler, now his name had become, with the corpse of the whale bringing a tidy sum. £100 sterling was allegedly paid, but we don't truly know what really Billy made. Known for his gambling and yearning for the drink, any money he earned was just poured down the sink. His wages and his life were just gambled away. With his family's rejection, he would inevitably pay. Later, he spoke of his regrets and his dreams. A hermit I am, he now fretfully deems. On that cold devil's table at night he would perch, a flat stone grave at St. Bartholomew's Church. There is little doubt that the drink was his jailer, but his spirit lives on. It's Billy the Whaler. Great and real history of a place that's got a ton of history anyway. Now, Lee Maria, this is, I love this. I love this because you caught it and you sent it in, and now I can share it with everybody and you can all go, what the? When I was saying that I kept seeing things swirling and moving, and the stuff that I saw didn't just fall to the ground like rotted paint, dry paint. Sometimes you get a little bit of a fall from the ceiling because the room was painted perfectly. There was no hint of wear on the paint. It was all but new. Because what I saw stuff coming down kind of at an angle, and then I saw it kind of sweep up. So it wasn't just gravity, because gravity would bring it straight down. It came down kind of slightly sideways and swirled around. Now, Lee Maria said that about 50 seconds into the clip that I'm about to play you, if you're watching on a big telly, a dark-haired girl with her arms outstretched, going backwards as if thrown. She doesn't just go down, she starts to rise again. What can do that? Well, I don't know. This is the clip. Now, remember, you've got to wait about 50 seconds in, and then I don't mention this on the clip. Don't expect me to. I was totally unaware of it until Lee Maria sent it in. Great spot. Well done, and thank you for that. Here it is. Enjoy.
Do that. I was leaving this here. I do it by all means. Yeah, of course. Not that one. I'll give you the super. Not the super bright one. Done. Come on. Make yourself known. Come on. You all right, Tony? I just heard one of them pins again. Come on. Show yourself. Show yourself. Give me a name. I did hear something else go around at this corner. This is just me going around that corner. That's downstairs where the pin is. Just realised it's downstairs. What the hell is that? Just seen something like almost fall from the...
Wow. First of all, how great is that? I just think that there's something that on the edge of embarrassing about me being in that room and on the top of the stairs and looking down the stairs. I heard something like a ting, and then when I went outside, I realized that the room next door isn't the one with the pinboard. It's the next floor down. And yet I heard a very similar noise upstairs in the other room. But there's just something just a bit embarrassing about me being in the room saying, well, show yourself. And it did that. And I had no clue. I'm going to give it one last look, and I'll stop it just after it happens, when she goes. This girl, with dark hair, outstretched arms going backwards as if thrown.
Do that. I was leaving this here. I do it by all means. Yeah, of course. Not that one. I'll give you the super. No, the super bright one. Done. Come on. Make yourself known. Come on. You all right, Tony? I just heard one of them pins again. Come on.
How about that? Whoa. Do you know how many shows we doing? And I know Chilean was a stunner. We got all kinds of stuff there. We got all kinds of stuff in Morpeth. We can't deny that we got stuff that shocked Tony. Those pins dropping out were ridiculous. He was standing right beside it when a pin flew out the board. I mean, mind-blowing stuff. But to catch something like that, that's like a 1 in 1,000, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? To get something, vavoom. Now, I'm going to be showing you a whole pile of ghost pics because of what somebody's written into me. These are all, most of these come from direct messages to Alan Robson, big M, small BE. Stephen D says, I'm so grateful to Alan. Keep these shows going. They're amazing. Nobody else does anything like this. And thanks to all of you that dove in for the photographs and the pentagrams and stuff. A lot of them have reached their target. Adam said that he'd got his. Paula says this, Alan, I really love your blah. I thought the thing you did on cryptids was really interesting. Have you heard of the Fresno night crawlers? I've been to Fresno, actually, as it happens. We've got a Robson's World show featuring the night crawlers. And I did a show in San Francisco about the Zodiac killer, like the true crime kind of thing, along with other killers and murderers and blood-soaked things. And while I was there, I was told about the Fresno night crawlers. So I went to Fresno to have a look because you're actually not too far away from it. Their most recent sighting was 3 days away. Now, I've got some images of what the night crawlers are, in case people don't know. They're weird. They almost look like just legs. You can imagine 2 big white legs, but the legs go up, and instead of being a body and a head, That's just the shape there. Have a look. Oh, I beg your pardon. That is not it. That is, in fact, the ghost on Gosforth Park Racecourse. They used the SLS one evening on the golf course, and they came across that. This is Brian's work, not mine. And there's another one. So that's just to prove that he was right. If you're wondering what the Fresno night walkers look like, about that, just a little clip. It's these strange, white, weird things. When I was there, did I say anything? No. But I did talk to half a dozen people who'd seen them. You know, so, oh, we're used to seeing them. Usually late at night, if we look across the valley, we see one or two walking by. Matter of fact, does that mean they're real or not? I've got no idea. It might just be that the people there want to keep the kettle boiling. Who knows? Impressive, all the same. Also, they say the most, they talk about the Black Knight satellite. I'll get into that in a second. But because you mentioned it, I made a few phone calls to the people that I know who live in that vicinity. And the most recent sighting of a Fresno nightcrawler was 3 days ago. Sunday, gone. And it featured on local television. A school bus was driving by and saw two of these night crawlers walking across the road in front of the bus about 100 yards ahead, middle of the day. Okay. Black Knight satellite me. Now, Paula said, the Black Knight satellite has fascinated me for years. We look forward to your shows. Me and my hubby Vaughan are big fans. Thank you very much. I know you're relatively new to it as well, so we thank you for joining in. On Robson's World, we've got a whole whack of shows called Alien Jesus, and I think it goes somewhere like up to 7. And then there's a few other alien type specials. During the Alien Jesus series, we feature the Black Knight satellite. It's orbited Earth for thousands of years. Some say it's the mother craft of aliens who landed and interbred with us and gave us some of their technology. Is it really? Will we ever find out? I don't know. I'd love to think so, because I too have been fascinated by that. Now, I made a comment on the back of somebody having a pop at the old radio show that I used to do, saying, oh, I used to only listen for the drunks. I never allowed drunks on it. I never did. All of my staff were told never to put them on. Did we have, excuse me, did we have tiddly people? The odd one, if they sounded fun. But I certainly had more crazy people. But they were never drunk. But they were crazy. And we loved every single one of them. Brenda said this, hi, Alan, I love everything you do. There's some stuff I do that you wouldn't want to watch. And also, Joanne says, I had a friend who lived in a flat above where we were last week at Beaumont. It's not Beaumont anymore, but what it was. She says the top floor has an overwhelming feeling, really bad energy. When watching TV, I could feel somebody behind me. I was absolutely petrified. I felt like I was going to be murdered in the place. Once I saw what I thought looked like a monk. It was absolutely horrific and terrifying. And she joined the watch. She joined our little group and watched the show last week. And she said she was watching it to see if it backed up what she felt from her time living there. And I think you have to admit that it did. Jules says her 15-year-old brother doesn't believe, but got a shock seeing a ghost on the show. Quite possibly the one that we've just been looking at. And but don't put them down for not believing. I don't care if people don't believe. I'm trying to bring proof to you on a regular basis, and you can either believe it or not believe it. That's fine. But he's 15. I mean, the mother's milk is still damp on his face. Give him a chance to get a bit older, and then he realize that the world isn't as simple as people tell us that it is. On Robson's World this week, we've got a thing called Execution Row. Newcastle, London, and the rest. A lot of people in the Northeast seem to think they know, and they were the witches, they were hanged on the moor. Yes, they were, and that's where people's knowledge of who we killed seems to end. There's a lot of people killed over a lot of years, and if you want to find out the stories, some of the biggies, and there were some really big ones, Execution Row will do that for you. Ian said this: I really liked the show in Morpeth. Peter, Catherine, and Marjorie said the moving mist was really impressive. I saw a girl's image in it. There you go, second one to say that. Natalie, used to live there. Caroline had a haunted flat and says, on watching the show, I thought it was amazing. Stacey, tell Alan I'm asking after him. Thank you. Roy, entertaining and informative. The Blah is where it's at, which is very good. The Witchy Wood in Northumberland. Now, I wanted to show you this, but I've discovered that it's, we don't have a copyright and they haven't sent it to us, so we can't play it. But I've seen it. And it's a witchy wood where we've been before. And apparently, in the 1950s, a couple said they were going for a walk in the witchy wood. And the witchy wood's in Northumberland. It's the place where they tell me, well, don't advertise it, otherwise it'll be full of people. Private land, you see. So, two people went missing in the 50s. They went into the woods and they didn't come out. And the police searched it and they had cadaver dogs and no sign of this couple. Since then, people have been seeing people walking along the trails, two people in front of them, and you think they're just walking a dog, they're just taking the air like I am. And on this video that I've seen, you see them and then they disappear. And then you keep walking along the trail and you see them even more clearly and you go, because they're dressed kind of modern. And I would have thought, I'll speed up, catch them, because they're just there and they're just people. We just walk past them and say good morning or whatever. And you get within about 50 feet and they disappear right in front of you. I've sent to the people who sent it to me, if they know whose it is, so that we can play it. And if we can, I'll try and get it on next week's show. Gina said this: I've just recently listened to your special show on Tutankhamun, Robson's World again. It totally blew my mind. I am now obsessed with curses. And I found a cursed teddy that looks like you. This is not good for me, this whole thing. Now, first of all, curses. How many of you remember these? The Crying Boy paintings. They used to sell them at Woolworths when we used to have a shop called Woolworths. And people kind of fell in love with them. You know, oh, I'll get that for me, ma'am. I'll get that for me, nana. Cute little bairn sobbing. Oh, what a shame. And then people's houses started bursting into flames. And there was about 15 to 20 fires. And the only thing that all of these houses on fire had in common was they all had a painting of the Crying Boy. And this went on for about 2 to 3 years. And then after 2 to 3 years, Woolworths stopped selling them. And in the middle of Newcastle, I remember I was on radio at the time, in the middle of Newcastle, on Old Eldon Square, in front of St. George and the Dragon, for those of you that know it, people brought their Crying Boy paintings into town, poured paraffin on them and set them on fire. So curses galore with a Crying Boy. What about this as well? Do you think your knob could be cursed? What do you think? Discuss. Because this knob is. Yes, it's just a knob, but it's cursed. And it came from a house where an entire family were murdered, apparently. And the only thing left, pretty much, they wanted a memento of the house where the family used to live. And so they took a knob off one of the doors, the door where the fire started, where 3 members of the family were killed. And they put it on one of their doors in the house. And they got bad luck for like 6 or 7 years. So eventually they took the knob off and donated it to a museum, the Cursed Knob. Mine's more of an unlucky knob rather than a cursed knob. Anyway, here's just a few accoutrements of the voodoo, a poppet, and the various ways that it can be used. It can be used for good or it can be used for unpleasantness. Cursed doll. I always think dolls of a certain age. We used to have, of course, Gwendoline. They just look spooky as hell. And this is, of course, Annabelle, a demonic doll. Movies were made about this sucker. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Some people rate them, some people hate them. One of their friends called Lou was attacked and killed by the doll, according to the Warrens. And his body was found dead. And they say that the spirit of the released corpse of Lou possessed the doll. There's a lot of famous cursed bits and pieces. And James Dean's Porsche Spider, we got a great special on that. Cursed items, bad luck. And can something evil, wicked, and unpleasant be held in a something? I've told you a few years back about a chair in Coventry that used to belong to an old man who died in the chair and came back to haunt and possess the chair. And anybody sitting in that chair was made to feel uncomfortable and kind of forced off the chair. And eventually they ended up having to move it out and set fire to it. A cursed chair. Now, when I lived in, I'm not going to say which property, when I was in Paris, I bought a statuette, which was about so big, and it was of a monk. You couldn't see his face, had his hood up, and he had his hands over his eyes like this. I was going through a particularly bad time at that precise moment. I just heard that the show that I'd done for close to half a century was going to end. It was going to be pulled out the same year that I'd just won the world's biggest radio award for the 6th time. And I was going to be made to disappear. And this statue of just angst summed up exactly how I felt. So I bought it. From the moment that I bought it, everything went wrong. Everything went wrong. The problems with the property I was in, problems with the car that I had. It died in the middle of the A1 in the fast lane. Yeah, just one thing after another. So when I moved out of that place, I put the statue under the stairs round the corner where nobody could see it and just left it there. And you don't know whether it was really terrible, but the interesting thing is the people that bought the property, because I saw the house back up for sale like 2 years later. You don't know, do you? You don't know. Anyway, onwards, ever onwards. Dave says, Alan, about half a century ago, I saw you in Blackpool. It was at the Albert in Victoria. I used to do every Friday night in Blackpool. I used to drive down and do hens and stags, wild kind of rock pop party at the Albert in Victoria. The stags, all the lads would get drunk, and the hens all fluttering and clucking, or cluttering and, well, yeah, and like hens, often waking up with an irritating cock. However, I used to do that gig a lot, and the theme tune that I used to play there was called Gang Bang by the sensational Alex Harvey Band, and everybody sang along with it. Wild, uncontrollable times. And the fact that you were there at all, Dave, makes me certain that you should be thoroughly and utterly ashamed of yourself. So there. Anyway, we have more. Let me see. Oh, yes, there is more. Lucy and Phil, I've just got your true crime special. And this is one that's out at the present moment about the tombs. And there's a story in there from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the man that wrote, oh, do you know what I haven't done? I have sidestepped very neatly the fact that there is a cursed teddy bear that looks like me. Now, when somebody says that to you, you go, don't believe it for a second. I think it's savagely realistic. Here it is. It's now, did you notice the nipples? It's even got blue eyes. That's spooky. Couldn't find a story of it, but apparently it's cursed. That's just freaky as flip right there. Anyway, the story about Arthur Conan Doyle. You know, Sherlock Holmes has great stories, brilliant stories, and written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And I didn't realize that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, because of these great, amazing stories with complicated plots, was asked to go and solve a crime. And he went away and solved a crime. Amazing. There's gory stories of an ex-British soldier who ended up ruling a country in Africa. Stories of good time girls being bad time girls. Everything in this show, from Morecambe and Wise, who are in it, to Jack the Ripper, whose story is in it. And I'm also allowed to go in a haunted sewer that was used by a man called the Torso Killer. And it's really spooky. It's got noises that should only ever appear in a horror film. Paul in New Jersey, he's my tourist board connection in northeastern USA. He said, Alan, I never believed in ghosts, yet last Thursday I was in a park. It was about 6:30 and I saw two children playing. Didn't think much of it until I concentrated on them. They were both see-through. And he says, all this is your fault. I've started looking now. And this is the thing. The people who've never seen a ghost before, and they always go, well, I've never seen one and I'm 63 years old and I've never seen one. And then you say, have you ever looked? And they go, well, no. Would you ever see a woodlouse unless you looked? Anyway, Jason says, hi, Alan. I was really interested to listen to Robson's World about haunted St. James's Park. Are there any other haunted football grounds? Yeah. Arsenal used to have a ground called Highbury. One of their old managers, a man called Herbert Chapman, used to haunt that particular ground. Ian Holloway, when he was the manager, I like Ian Holloway, he's a nice bloke. When he was manager of Swindon, he discovered that, first of all, his team was losing every game. And he wondered why, because they were training well. They had players that were as good as anybody else in the league. So he brought in an exorcist. They had a live exorcism. And from that day onwards, they didn't suffer any bad luck again. They started winning. Leicester's King Power Stadium has the ghost of King Henry I. His remains were found nearby. Birmingham, their ground. In 1906, they had a group of Romanis removed from their car park, and the Romanis cursed the football ground. Staying in Birmingham, Aston Villa's ground. Groundsman hanged himself in Villa Park, and ever since then they've seen ghosts. Sam says, I've got one or two more a bit later on. Sam says, on your ghost hunts, we see and hear all sorts. I've seen many ghosts. How come there are so few pictures caught of ghosts? Two reasons, really, Sam. First of all, the church don't want them shown and put power on people not to advertise the fact that there's something else there. Secondly, those in power don't want to advertise them either. There's thousands of ghosts all over the place. I've dug out a batch just at random, just to show you how common they are, because they're all over the place. Stuff like this. Now you say, well, is that for real? Is that? These are all supposedly real. This one I think is particularly good. Looks like a woman in a long dress and a hat standing outside a modern day front door. There's one in the theatre that we've caught, which is good. This is taken in a cemetery late at night. You can see like the dark shadow of a tree, and you can see two white figures, one almost looking like an Oscar ornament staring directly at you with the head on the top of the picture, but the other looks like someone that's more slender, maybe female, a little bit further down, just off center. You can see the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the arms. When this made the newspaper, some people said it was an angel. I'm not sure I really believe in angels, not in the form that they're usually shown. Look at this. They were using, you can, rather like a lot of image screens you can get for cameras. There's a one that shows heat and cold. There was nobody in the room. They took a photograph and there was something black walking across the room at the time. Photograph taken of a man getting the barbecue ready outside, ignoring the fact that there's something very dodgy going on in his house, staring out of the window. Sometimes there are people who may well not be the most attractive, but they are marginally more attractive than the head that's looking over the shoulder of the lady. Now, I find this fascinating because we've caught on camera moving shots of people that look like the shadow that's walking up the stairs there. On the yellow wall, you see the shape of somebody walking up the stairs, but there's no one on the stairs. The end of the corridor, a shining figure. Looks like, to be honest, I've seen this photograph a couple of times now. It looks like there's a small child beside them with dark hair in what appears to be a nightgown. Can you see that? To the right-hand side of the shining figure right in the middle. I don't want to tell you what to look for. There's a dark shape caught in the hall. You know when people say, I just caught something out the corner of my eye, and it's what I famously describe as a blackness that's slightly darker than the darkness around them. This is the image of a church, and there, standing at the side of the pulpit, is a shining figure. Who? What? What's it all about? Another cemetery picture. That's not a statue of someone. That's a female figure. You can see where the skirt ends and the legs begin. You can see the hands. She's carrying something. Might even be something like a lamp. Some people taking a photo, and there's something crashing the photograph. This is one of the most famous ones. When there was the car crash and someone died, and they said the spirit was leaving the body, Christians all came forward and said, no, it's an angel to protect those that were in pain. Great capture, whatever the hell it is. Look at this. You know, it's just when people say that, you never see a good picture of a ghost. Something through the window there. Good job the Ben didn't look the other way. He's ginger. I wonder if I know his mum. There's another strange image appearing to stare out of a window. This one has a story attached to it. This guy getting his picture taken in the house that he's in the process of doing up. He was doing it up to move in with his brother who died of cancer. And there in the doorway, a see-through image of his brother. This is just people taking a family photo, and some energy just appearing over the top of a good half of the picture. This is just a great shot. Picture of a library that was said to be haunted. This was taken off CCTV. What is that then? What is it? You never get a good picture of a ghost, ever. We pick them up all the time on the ghost hunts that we do in one form or another. This is just a super bright image of a woman. She's facing away from you, her head's bowed down. She's got her hair up in a bun. She's wearing a long Victorian-style dress. Back in the church, another picture, image of the church. And there, some strange, kind of slightly square anomaly at the very bottom. Image taken of a busy city scene. Let's take a picture from the dock, looking along the dock, over the sea. But there was something else on the dock. And it's very peculiar. Husband and wife. Now, they're just about to go into their marital home. They've literally just been married. He's just about to pick her up and carry her in. If you look on the shoulder opposite, where he's got his red rose, look just above his shoulder. There's a woman peering out of the window. His mother died 8 days before his wedding. And he swears that that is his mother, watching through the window, waiting for him, coming home. This is a figure going through a garden. It had no legs. This is an image of a bar. Can you see the ghostly barmaid? If you look at where the door frame is, she is just slightly to the left of the door frame. You can see her arms, you can see her neck, her head. This is the pew of a church with a vicar sitting in it. This is an image taken from a firehouse. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's the 3 firemen whose building it was. That was the crew of that fire engine. The woman who used to do all the admin for the fire station retired, and she died like about 8 or 9 months later. And when they took this photograph, at the top of the photograph, at the back of the fire engine, is the woman that used to do all of the books, who died. Another church shot with some strange anomaly there. A dark figure, that moving blackness that we've talked about before. This one's quite a famous one. And if I was going to doubt any of these, and of course you doubt them all, you certainly should, I do anyway. You always think, is that kind of something fakeable? But the only thing that I'll say about it is that image, that facial image that's there, they used to, when we did, it's not often, we did a small village, and when we went into the cemetery, totally unknown to us, there was an image of a face very like that behind a tree that watched us go into the graveyard. Those of you that are regulars with us, and I know you're all supporters, but the ones that have been with us a while, at first you think, well, that's got to be made up. But we caught an image on screen looking at us from behind a tree and moving its head and then walking around the back of the tree. And it was a similar image to that. This is where the building had a fire and a girl was killed. And a few days later, they took a photo during the rebuilding. And there is the little one. Another image out in the countryside. Ghost of a girl. This one's quite cool. When they came back from the war, they took photographs of a lot of the soldiers. This man lost his brother overseas. And yet when he had his photograph taken, when he survived and got back to Blighty, there's his brother standing right beside him, looking over his shoulder. And at a time of the year where we're looking at remembrance, how cool is that? This one's more peculiar. It's a wedding, and everybody's having a prayer because it was like a wedding from a religious family. And at the end of that table on the left-hand side, there's something that looks like it's either Darth Vader or it's a monk of some kind. And when you talk to the people in the party, nobody saw it. It was caught on a photograph. Nobody saw it. I think these are great shots too. Taken on a night vision camera in the cellar of a pub. The story of that particular pub is that one of the men that used to wire up all of the kegs of beer and lager was hit by a keg and had his neck broken. And there's a figure of the man who looks identical to the fellow that used to work there, with his head bent to one side. This is really famous, but it's just so good. In light of people saying, well, you never get a picture of a ghost, I had to show you this one. It's the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall, and she's very famous, wearing a very Elizabethan style gown. Amazing, nonetheless. Just a couple more. This is creepy. This is a mother with a daughter smiling for the camera, but there's a hand over the child's shoulder. There's nobody else there. There's not somebody old and crinkly, but there's a really old, crinkly, witchy style hand over the shoulder. First thing they noticed when they got their photographs developed. This is the church organ and the organist who'd been dead when this photograph was taken. Over 20 years. The man always used to dress very sharply with his grey hair razor cut, and there it is, sitting back behind his organ. You never want to say goodbye to your organ, do you? Face it. Neat little story. A girl who said that she always felt as if there was the ghost of her sister following her everywhere she went. Now, there is an anomaly around her, isn't there? And this is actually one of my favorites. It's the image of a church. You got to look a bit for this ghost, because if you look on the balcony to the right-hand side, there is somebody wearing a long powdered wig, wearing a very long coat like they would wear in the times of maybe Shakespeare or Chaucer. And he's on the balcony. He's holding his two hands out in front of him, like he's holding the collar of his tunic. There he is on the balcony. This is why we need you guys to pay particular attention when we do ghost hunts of one sort or another. Anyway, there we have it. Some good stuff. I think you couldn't not have enjoyed that lot. And now this one. Hi, Alan. Just want you to know that the history that you bring us is fantastic. And he said, who knew Morpeth had Mary, Queen of Scots, Nana? Yeah, living at Morpeth Castle. Andrew said, sent in a video and says, Alan, would you please take a look at this for me? I took it at Halloween. Now, I haven't got this video on to show you. It's a bit long, but essentially it's a little boy emptying a bag out full of sweets, all the ket that he'd collected, I presume, when he'd been trick-or-treating. And then you see the odd fleck of an orb here and there, 3 or 4 orbs moving in different directions. And then you hear a female voice say something. Now, I replayed and replayed and replayed. It's a woman's voice. Can't make it out. And he says this, numerous orbs and then a lady's voice in a whisper. I believe my house is haunted by the old lady called June who lived here previously. Also, I have seen black figures out of the corner of my eyes. Recently, I went to a spiritualist church in Gateshead to see if they could cast any light on it. No joy. I'd love your help. Well, the help, you don't need any help. You've caught some orbs and you've got a disembodied voice that you can't explain. And it's great. I'll see if we got room on next week's show for that as well, because it is worth a look. More haunted football grounds, because you asked. Southampton has a poltergeist, no less. Things move on their own. They brought a witch to St. Mary's to get rid of it, and the witch calmed the undead, she said. We mentioned, because of 3 or 4 ghost stories about St. James's Park, we've got specials again on Robson's World about it. Stadium of Light has a shadowy figure often seen in the corridors, and it's the ghost of a man who was an old wrecker, an old sailor who used to light fires on the coastline to draw ships onto the rocks and then go down and steal whatever popped out after the ship sank. He was a wrecker, Spotty. Now, we have taken a listener at one point to go and locked her into Spotty's Hole, which is down by the coast. And that's every time I mention Spotty's Hole, when I walked in, the second that I got into the cave, because it's a cave with like a roller shutter down the front, as soon as the guy opened up and let me walk in, as soon the light was on, everything was illuminated. As soon as I got underneath the light, the bulb exploded all over my head. Cool. I mean, I'll take it every day of the week. Chelsea's Stamford Bridge had the smiling man, a cheerful, friendly spirit seen grinning at you. One woman saw him and went running up to one of the stewards and said, I've just seen the smiling man. I've just seen him. And the guy said, if I were you, I'd buy a couple of tickets in a raffle. We're giving a car away today. She went off. She bought 2 tickets and won the car. Big story, front page in London. Home Park, Plymouth Argyle, the ghost of an ex-player called Dominic Buzzard. He turns the lights on and off, turns the showers on and off. One day, the BBC cameras were there for a cup match against one of the Premiership teams, and the ghost or the poltergeist unplugged all of the BBC's kit. It all went off. And the engineers had to run, plug it all back in again, and everything was cool. Goodison Park, Everton's ground, used to be. The perimeter of the pitch. The perimeter of the pitch is made up of human ash poured on it by Everton fans who wanted to put their ashes on the pitch. Now, while I was hosting games at St. James's Park for 7 or 8 years, people you would say to me, "Oh, can we? Is there any chance?" And I got, I think it was about 9 people in total scattered on St. James's. And talking about football ground, this is just a tenuous link. Not Gallowgate. Alan, I was walking across the town moor and I heard a horrifying scream. I looked around, there was nobody anywhere near me, and yet that scream sounded like it was right next to him. And I legged it. That is the scene of a Cavalier battle during the English Civil War. So, this story's attached to it. Now, a quick look at your comments as well, because I always like to take a look. Jenny says, I saw that mist like rain or snow on outdoor ghost hunts. Snow. Right. That's how mist looks on infrared cameras. I get it on my Ring camera all the time. I'm not sure how to explain seeing it indoors. We saw the white stuff coming down from the ceiling. It was very weird. I wasn't sure whether anybody had. It was brilliant, Alistair. You're Alistair. I know that. And also, been an up and down week Found out my granddaughter's going to be born Friday night, Saturday. A little early, 2 weeks, but I'm so excited. Why, good luck to you, Jeanette. And what else is happening? Loving the weekly blars. Quick question. Recently seen a ghost story on YouTube based on St. Mary's Island in Whitley Bay. Have you done a hunt there? Yes, we've got one. Absolutely. And next to Curry's Point, where the man was hanged, there's 3 stories of death on St. Mary's Island, so it doesn't surprise me. Lee Maria says, it's better slowed down to see her more clearly. I'll make a point of getting Tony to do that. Thank you. Ken, it was an absolute pleasure having you. Oh, it's the man who allowed us in. It was an absolute pleasure having you along that night. We checked the floor where the flaking paint was seen. The following morning, absolutely nothing on the floor. I still can't get my dogs to go anywhere near the top floor. Something resembling a cloud moved from center screen to the right-hand side, but no spectral figure. Did anybody, it depends what you consider a spectral figure. Lee says we need to slow it all down. We will do that. I'm sure Tony will have the ability to do it. The problem is not a lot of people believe till something happens when they have to eat humble pie. Like it happened to Alan. It did, fair dues. I'll take that. I always thought that the painting of a blue woman with black hair was cursed. My uncle loved that picture, but we had tremendous bad luck whilst it was in our possession. There's a haunted chair in the Old George. There is the chair that used to be sat on by King Charles I. What spooks me about Lee Maria is what causes it to happen. How does someone just burst into flames? Oh, spontaneous human combustion. Very famous story in Whitley Bay of a woman who just burst into flames. It's nothing to do with smoking. The medical people say, oh, it's chemicals in the stomach. I don't buy it, but I don't know. Haven't got an answer, but I don't buy it. We've got a Robson's World show all about spontaneous human combustion where we go deep into it. People say, is it painful? The people that have survived it, 3 people have survived spontaneous human combustion. And we hear from one talking about what it felt like, which is pretty cool. Strange stuff. We found it a bit corny with the Americans. Scariest places on earth. And I understand that. Americans, they deal with things in a very different way. Hi, Alan. Glad to see you. Well, good. Thank you. Love this show. Hope to see more. The amount of ghosts that I've seen, Alan, is unreal. They're everywhere. I know a great deal more nowadays regards the other side and ghosts. Good. Schooner Hotel. Interesting videos captured in the kitchen. My only worry about the schooner is nobody's ever heard of the schooner. A new owner buys it and suddenly it's the most haunted place. And I always worry about those kind of things. Not casting any aspersion because I don't know any better. But anyway, that was my view. And did you do a haunted Morpeth book years ago where you mentioned a haunted seat built into the wall? It's not about, the book's not about Morpeth. It's about all kinds. It was my first ghostly book, which was fortunately a best seller. I was in the Schooner Hotel when a couple of ghost hunters came in. They went upstairs and then they came back and said that their fully charged cameras didn't work in a couple of the rooms. Yeah, those kind of things are common. What did you think of the video at Halloween that Andrew sent you with the voice? I have addressed that. I did a little piece on it not 10 minutes ago. I think it's impressive. It's impressive. I'm hoping to play it next week for you. And is there anything else? Alan, did you used to be the stadium speaker at St. James's Park? Yes, I hosted it for 8 years during the time of Kevin Keegan and Sir John Hall invited me to host them. So there you go. That's everything. All I've got to do is give you a clue to where we're going to be tomorrow night from 7:30. And it's what most older men would like. What most older men would like. That's the clue. What older men would like. That's the clue. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Just finally, Mark, Alan, have you ever been harmed by a spirit? Yes, I genuinely believe that I have. And it was in Charleville Castle in the middle of Ireland, where something got hold of my stomach and pressed in extremely hard and made me vomit for 12 minutes live on air. I'd never done that before. Anyway, not a great way to end. Oh, let's vomit. But until we are together again tomorrow night, I look forward to your company. Till then, from me, Alan Robson, thanks to all of you for your company and for all of your only one clue, says David. Yeah. Okay. Let's give you another clue. What most older men would like, and the perfect pair. The perfect pair. That's where we're going to be tomorrow night. 2 clues. Wedged out of me. And until we're back together again, good night. God bless you. And I wish you well. Tomorrow night at 7:30. I said 8 o'clock. We're going to aim for 7:30. Look forward to seeing you then. Night, night all. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye-bye all.